there with us. That is how we do it in government. I recognize the presence of Honorable Member of Parliament, Honorable Cuthbert Abigaba. I know others might join us along the way because the ICT Parliamentary Committee was invited in full swing. My sister, the Registrar General, URSB, and we forgot to mention the Vice Chairperson of the World Intellectual Property Organization Advisory Committee on Enforcement. So when we see her here, she already has a role and responsibility in ensuring that intellectual property is enforced in terms of creating awareness and in terms of ensuring that we do protect our innovations. I also recognize the chairperson of the ICT Association, Sister Elizabeth Tege. I also recognize our partners who have helped us have this conference here today. And in particular, our partner KTA Advocates, please stand up for recognition. Do we have Council Mohanji around? Yes, and your team, thank you very much for the support in this avenue. We are expected to have delegates from the US Embassy. Do we have any around? Yes, you're very welcome. We are also expecting heads of representatives from the EU. But in absentia, we do recognize their support and partnership. And to all of you, the young people, our invited guests, the innovators, the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Good morning.
Good morning.
Did we organize some sound tea? I welcome you to this intellectual property conference on harnessing intellectual property, not internet protocol. Intellectual property in the digital era to advance gender equality. Many times when people hear gender, they think, they quickly align to women. But when we are talking about gender, we are talking about inclusivity. Men, women, the old, the young, people with disabilities, everybody. That is what, gender refers to. So as we stand here today, our previous speakers, yes, we have really emphasized the fact that we should support women in ensuring that they are aware of the importance of intellectual property, but we also do have to support everybody else in the ecosystem. We also have, our friends and people with disabilities who also come up with their innovations. How are we supporting them? How are we coming up with platforms that are ensuring that we do protect whatever they have done? So it is a conference that is aimed at bringing together all these facets. The reason I think why we have had a focus on women is that, naturally women are innovators. I think Mercy rightfully emphasized this. We do innovate and create. But the problem is that when we have our ideas, people come and snatch them away from us and make and meet a lot of money out of that. And forget us or put us in the back door, or even never recognize us for what was, taken away from us. So creating awareness of intellectual property is very key and pertinent for us to grow our economy, to grow our recognition. I think one of the presenters, Mr. Mugisha, here, spelled out a series of importance or benefits of, intellectual property registration. I have at the Ministry of ICT, we have strengthened and supported intellectual property. Of course, Shali, I didn't take on Shali for just like the young people say, it wasn't for just. Shali has the capability and ability, and she has the knowledge and is qualified to start on this subject matter. So whatever we are doing in intellectual property at the ministry, Shali is behind it. Yes, it is good. It is not a coincidence that it's a woman, but yes, it gives me fulfillment to know that it is a woman behind this. And Shali, we thank you very much for the commitment. And thank you very much for ensuring that we have got to this level where the Ministry of ICT is coming out openly to, to own and support the awareness of intellectual property rights and registration. We cannot do that alone as a Ministry of ICT, but we do it in partnership with our sister agencies. Without URSP, we cannot say that, we can successfully implement intellectual property. Without Ministry of Finance that is supposed to, generate and create avenues for resources to support us in doing this, we cannot manage. And other ministries, if we break down the role of each entity in government, if we break down the role of Parliament in creating awareness and understanding and appreciating, then we shall know that surely every one of us has a responsibility and role to play in intellectual property. This conference is a significant step towards empowering innovators, equipping them with the knowledge, resources, and opportunities to leverage intellectual property rights effectively. It is a part of the World Intellectual Property Week celebrations and a precursor to World Intellectual Property Day on April 26, 2024. So Uganda is blessed, having a vice chair from Uganda representing us at this international level. And I know as she gives her talking points or remarks at one point in their meeting, she will talk about this conference, isn't it? So it is also a blessing for her to show that being an advisor to the Committee of Enforcement, that Uganda is taking charge and playing a big role towards this. So, Vice Chair, with these initiatives that we are doing for Uganda and on your own behalf, we know that you will become chairperson soon. So we pray that you get elevated to that level, and we shall not let you down because we have started the journey of ensuring that we do enforcement of intellectual property. I am honored to share Uganda's remarkable progress towards a digital future. Of course, without digitalization, intellectual property can also not thrive because most of the innovations are driven along technology, they are driven along digitization. Of course, they are also driven along knowledge creation, imagination, content creation, but the media of operation is usually technology. The latest assessment shows that Uganda is rated at 33% under the skilling domain. We have creating awareness, and skilling is part of the journey for creating awareness for intellectual property. We also have to talk about the regulatory environment that we are working in, or working within. Do we have the right policies in place? Do we have the right guidelines? So we're talking about a toolkit. We are going to, whether there is a toolkit or guidelines to inform people on how they should conduct the property, intellectual property journey. Yes, we have come up with that toolkit that we are going to present today, and it is a toolkit that will be available digitally. We are discouraging hard copies as much as possible due to the environmental restrictions and environmental codes that we are bearing too. So in terms of policies and regulations, Uganda is doing well. We have the right policies, we have the right regulations, we have the laws, but enforcement is our weakness. So forums like this will help us and enable us to enforce this better. We also have a rating of 42% when it comes to the innovation space. We have done and created a lot of innovations. The Innovation Hub, the National ICT Innovation Hub, is only one of those centers or spaces where innovators have been converged to be able to improve their innovations and even grow them. But we also train them and give them the skills they need to either come up with the right business plans for their innovations, come up with the right costings for their innovations, and also be empowered to market their products. But where we fall short is that before they register their intellectual property rights, someone can easily come and take away their idea and thrive on it. So we are trying to create a balance. and to encourage people to always register their intellectual property as soon as they have, conceptualized their idea, even before they roll it out. You don't have to wait for you to get a client to buy your product for you to register this intellectual property. Some of the innovations we have supported at the ministry have actually scaled up and are being consumed by government. The online business registration system that URSP is using was developed by our own Ugandans. And because they have registered their intellectual property, they can also go and trade that product in the region, on the continent, and that is what we are looking for. When you go to market your products and you don't have some of these, rights registered or protected, you will not have a competitive advantage in the market. So we are doing this to, I remember, I think it's, Mr. Mugisha would say it's a boring subject. It's boring, but when you look at the rewards, they will surpass the boredom. So you should pay very specific attention to this subject because it is standing between you and getting money. The government is committed to continuing this remarkable journey faster if possible. And some of the discussions we expect to hear from you is how do we get better? Or how do we manage to do this in an accelerated manner? How do we create communities? I am from academia, and we have communities of practice where people with similar interests, similar qualifications, or similar minds meet and discuss how to bring this forward. We can create a community of practice on this subject matter and see how we advance the knowledge that we are supposed to acquire. Brandy mentioned about the digital transformation roadmap. The digital transformation roadmap is a strategy or direction that the Ministry of ICT set out, working together with the private sector, working together with development partners, civil society, and everybody, for us to shape how we are going to move the digital, how we're going to walk the digital transformation journey. As a country, we first, of course, looked at what do we need, what are the fundamentals of digital transformation. The fundamentals include having the right, an enabling environment for you to transform. You have to have the right policies, the right laws, and all that, and Uganda is doing very well. I just told you we are 77%. And that challenge is enforcement. And we are saying moving forward, we are going to ensure that we put every measure in place to enforce the laws that we have. But the other fundamentals we need to really step up our game on our infrastructure, and those are the 5 areas of focus for our roadmap. We focused on 5 areas for the next 5 years, starting with this year. The first one is infrastructure. Infrastructure in terms of connectivity, infrastructure in terms of devices, access to devices, infrastructure in terms of, the spaces, the innovation hubs, and all these data centers, and maybe the facilities that you need for you to do your registration. That is also infrastructure. And our aim is to establish integrated digital infrastructure with sufficient capacity to meet current and future demands, aiming at 90% penetration of internet connectivity across this country and 90% broadband coverage nationwide. As we do the registration of intellectual property rights, we don't want you to walk to URSP to do that. But wherever you are, in northern Uganda, if you're in Arua, in Moroto, northeast, or you're in the far east in the Tororo Valley, or the other side of Choga in Port Poto and Kavale, we need everybody to just log on and do what they want to do. And that speaks to the infrastructure we have to set in place. The next area of focus is digital services. We have to take as many services online as possible for us to be able to, to accelerate e-commerce, to accelerate businesses, and to improve efficient and service delivery to the citizens. Of course, in your innovations, whatever innovations you're doing, I do not think there's any innovation today that will thrive without operating online. Does it exist? I don't think so, because that is the journey we are now walking. So emphasis is also put on digital services. The third area of focus is cybersecurity, data protection, and privacy. We have to create trusted systems, but at the same time protect people's data. As you do register your intellectual property, for the innovations that you're developing, have you put in place measures of ensuring that the data that you collect using these innovations that you have done? People's data, if it is an innovation for healthcare, you're going to do register people, their, all the information and data that concerns them. Is it protected? Can they trust these systems? So maybe when the panel comes to discuss, we need to look at issues to do with intellectual property registration and cybersecurity. How do they complement each other, as well as data protection and privacy? Then digital skilling is the other area of focus. We have to ensure that we skill people to be able to use the innovations that we are developing, and also to be able to use the data that is being collected from these innovations to inform the decisions that we make going forward. So there is a lot of skilling required. The farmers or people in the market that Mercy, goes and chats with, are they knowledgeable enough to go online and do their registration of this intellectual property? It is our responsibility to do that for them. Of course, embedded in digital skilling, cybersecurity, data protection, we have to create awareness and education of the various subject matters, including intellectual property. The last area of focus is innovation and entrepreneurship. And that is the space in which most of you here are seated. How are we supporting the innovation and entrepreneurship sector to grow? We hope to increase the number by 2030 of the ICT innovation products developed and commercialized in this country to over. In our development plan, we have a very conservative number, about 283, but by now I believe we are in tens of thousands of innovations. So we have to ensure that we increase these numbers, increase the number of digital centers of excellence in the country's productive centers, and strengthen partnerships for knowledge sharing. We are here to learn from each other, but which other platforms, aside from this conference, how are we going to continue sharing this knowledge? That is what forums like this are made for. And I call for us to be able to do this. We call upon strong partnerships to be able to support our journey towards a digital future. Of course, we cannot leave the legislative arm of government outside. Parliament is very key to understanding and appreciating the importance of things like intellectual property as a subject matter, because as they do deliberate on the various bills that are supposed to go through, they should be mindful that intellectual property exists, and none of the bills that are being granted or forwarded are going to compromise, the issue of intellectual property. When we are looking for resources, they will appreciate where we are coming from and be able to prioritize this as well. At the Ministry of ICT, we have partnered with the private sector, local development partners, international entities, and other governments for their collaboration and support in propelling the innovation ecosystem. Today, I think a lot of support has come from the Embassy of the US in supporting us in setting up whatever works that we are doing towards intellectual property. We congratulate our country towards having got off the grey list of countries that, where they discourage investors to go or tourists to go and anything like that. So this, I think, love for us, so it's a big thing. For those of you who don't know that it's a big thing, please go and read about the disadvantages of being on that list. Then you will appreciate why we are clapping for getting on that list. There are a number of innovators that we have been attracted to come there on this, but then when they discover that, when they were discovering that we are on the grey list, then they grow cold feet and they say, no, we've been advised not to invest here. But now that the field is open, are we also ready in terms of having our innovations and works protected or registered? That will be guided by the toolkits that we are going to launch today. We also have initiatives like we have worked on with the JICA, the Japanese International Cooperation Agency. We have a project called UJ Connect. U is for Uganda and J is for Japan. We are looking at connecting Uganda and Japan by looking at business matching. We are matching companies that are looking for employees. You know, as you young people call it fun fact, but the fact is that Japan is one of those countries with the oldest population in the world. And then Uganda is one of those countries with the youngest population in the world. So Japan is looking for people to work for them. And Uganda is looking for where to work. So we are trying to connect the two to leverage on the advantages that are there. So your innovations are going to be very resourceful. The skills that you're building for yourselves are also going to be very important in such avenues. In line with infrastructure, we have the Uganda Digital Acceleration Program funded or project funded by the World Bank that is aimed at expanding infrastructure, ensuring that we have connectivity in schools, in hospitals, in administrative centers, and then also in hubs. We are also going to connect post offices across the country because our aim is to turn these post offices into one-stop service centers. The post offices are no longer delivering mail. No one do you receive letters anymore? I don't know whether the young people have ever heard of letters, but the older people like us used to really use the services of the post office. But today we want to turn the post offices, because they're strategically located in different towns across the country. We want to turn them into one-stop service centers where a person in, for example, Moroto district walks to this center, can apply for their national ID and get it delivered there, can apply for their passport and get it delivered there, as opposed to coming to the city to do that. So it is about decentralizing service delivery to the different areas. But the outcome is that we expect that these service centers will create employment opportunities for the people in those regions. So those of you who are here and are coming from different parts of the country, we are coming and have crafted programs that are serving the entire country, because we don't want to leave anybody behind. When it comes to intellectual property, the economic impact of this intellectual property in Uganda as a country is very significant. A number of benefits have been highlighted by the previous speakers. The Ministry of ICT and National Guidance has started this intentional and intensified campaigns of creating intellectual property awareness and enforcement in Uganda through initiatives like developing the ICT intellectual property guidelines and the intellectual property toolkit that we are going to unveil today. The ministry ensures that innovators are provided with the right tools and knowledge to protect their creations and benefits from their innovations. So when we put out the calls for you to come and benefit from the programs that we are putting out for you, please respond. And the challenge we are facing is that we put out these calls and the girl child does not respond. We get very few ladies responding. And then when they do, they follow the program before it completes. So I think, as we discussed, you ladies should tell us what is the problem. Why aren't you responding? Or even when you respond, why aren't you completing? What are the challenges? Because if we appreciate the root cause of the problem, then we are going to be able to come up with solutions or tailor these programs in such a way that you benefit and complete. Because it is really painful for us to have spaces that, okay, but I'm going to say it here, it's painful to have spaces that are male dominated,